Alright, guys, so I'm going to be talking about another comic from my good friend who sent to me this. That line completely was fucked up. Let me try again. This is a comic sent. I'm doing another comic review of another comic that was sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again for the comic, and we're going to be talking about Alien Revival. This is the second volume in Marvel's Alien series by Philip Kennedy Johnson. With Salvador Larroca on art. And yeah, if you guys remember the first volume, I was like, oh, it was good. It was just Larroca's artwork just really bothered me when I did Alien Bloodlines, the first volume of this. And yeah, basically, I was like, it was decent enough. But Revival is literally like, I really enjoyed this volume. I really enjoyed what was done with this book. I, honest to God, like Bloodline was all right, but Revival was so much better. Probably because there's a few factors into why I think Revival is better than Bloodlines. I mean, yeah, is it still done by the same creative team? Yeah, it is. But I think it taps into more of what I like about Alien and what I like about Alien stories. So let's get started. So this takes place on a colony world called Eurydice. So Eurydice is basically a colony world, but it's run by by different colonies, and one of them is a colony of religious people known as the Spinners. And the Spinners are like anti-technology, and they believe in an all-loving mother. And they essentially are planning on making a deal with what's now the American Empire to keep the land for themselves. That's their deal, is that they're going to be able to keep the land for themselves. The problem is something went really wrong because the ship they were going to make the deal on was carrying a xenomorph, and it went about as well as you think. So, this I liked a hell of a lot more. Yes, same creative team, but the story for the first one wasn't gelling with me. Like the first volume story was just like, I'm not really feeling it. And also, like, it was kind of predictable a few points. Like, it is kind of predictable of what they do with some of the characters you see in there and what happens. But here, like, Alien's Revival is a much more interesting story because I really like stories that involve, like, religion and God and kind of mix it with the xenomorph. One of my favorite stories, if not my favorite Alien story, is Salvation, the Mike Mignola and Dave Gibbons one-shot from Dark Horse. And you may be thinking, well, why didn't you like Prometheus and Alien Covenant? Because those movies sucked. They completely missed the point of the whole thing. Like, Sam Raimi literally missed the point on the whole religion and God thing and mixing it with the xenomorphs. Like, this is what it should have been. Yeah, this is a really good story. It follows our main character, Jane, who is actually, our main character is suffering from a debilitating illness that is slowly making her fall into paralysis. It's slowly not so much killing her, but it's basically leaving her body into slow paralysis. And I know, I think it's like fast-acting Parkinson's, like they kind of describe it like that. So I thought that's kind of horrifying. And not to mention you have xenomorphs now. There's a lot of characters in this book, but don't worry, a lot of them are cannon fodder, and our main character is Jane, along with Ambrose, who turns out to be a synthetic sent by the company to destroy this. Because, yeah, the company was not okay with the idea. This is how petty Weyland-Yutani can be, is that they were so goddamn petty about the idea of letting this colony get land for themselves, that they literally put a xenomorph and impregnated the other crew members with xenomorphs on the ship and sent it on its way and used it as an excuse to use as a field test for the xenomorphs, since they can't have them on Earth. Yeah, just to spite the people when they lost the land. The company lost the land. That's how much they spited them. It's a really good story because it really delves into the whole thing of religion, and there's actually this great moment where one of the characters is talking about this religion he found out about from this old book from the 21st century of this religion in China of this old blind prophet who literally started from nothing and became the third largest religion in Asia. And then it turned out that what it really was, the guy died, and it turns out he was not only a con man who could actually see, but he was actually a guy who was installed by the government to make people more to basically create a religion that made people more complicit with the current government party and allowed a dictatorship to take over. That's heavy. Like, that's some heavy shit, and it really is like, man, like the idea of governments and companies utilizing religion to manipulate the masses, and it really is that kind of moment. It's like, did Weyland-Yutani create our religion for, like, you know, to manipulate us, like, to make it easier? Because when you look back and they talk about the passages of this book, you can easily interpret it as, like, the xenomorphs. Like, you can interpret the xenomorph, the mother they talk about, as a queen xenomorph, and, like, how they parallel it all. Like, it's clear, like, it kind of leaves into interpretation that maybe this religion was created for, like, people to be more open to the idea of being taken by xenomorphs. And that's kind of horrifying, because you do see, like, big governments and big industries manipulating religions all over the world for their own benefit, like to con people into being more subservient to them. You see that in, I don't need to point fingers, do I? But you see that in not just this country, but you see that in other countries as well, of people being manipulated by their own faith to be more compliant to their governments and their, you know, and big industries. And this really is, like, that's a real, I really like that they played with that in this book. And also, like I said, even though this is under Marvel, there are some straight up graphic kills in here. Like, they really earned the parental advisory sticker on this. Like, they straight up earned this this parental advisory. Like they were more gory than the Conan books, really, and still are. Like, yeah, Philip Kennedy Johnson really knows how to write engaging characters. I was very much fascinated by all of this. LaRocca's artwork didn't bother me as much as it did the first volume, probably because, like, I don't know, maybe some of the faces he doesn't get right, but I do think the xenomorphs look a lot less static. Like, the xenomorphs definitely look less static than before, and definitely a lot less traced. And I do think that it's an improvement. Like, it feels like much more of an improvement on that art, because that's what LaRocca's artwork really bothered me in the last book. So it's kind of nice to see, like, a upgrade of sorts in this comic. So I'm all ready for Volume 3, and I can't wait for Ed Breeson's Predator book to be collected in trade when that's fine, and when the first volume's done. Alien, so far, at Marvel, has been a good job. It's been a very good job by Marvel. I am very excited to see where they will go with this. Because, yeah, you could read that, like, literally, they do reference the first volume, and if you collect the trade, you get the annual that does kind of tie into the first volume of the book. But really, you could just pick this up on its own. Really, and I will tell you this right now. You could literally pick this book up now, like now. You can just pick, without picking up Volume 1, you could just pick up Volume 2, and it would be its own story. Like, it's barely connected to Volume 1. Like, it's like very much like the Dark Horse books, where it's like we're following a different set of characters in each story arc. And I hope we really do follow that. I really do hope we continue with that train of thought, because that's what made Alien so good. Like, a lot of the Alien books so good was because they were following their own paths and their own little set stories. But I do imagine they are going to have more of these characters, like, meet up at some point or another. But yeah, like I said, if you want to just read an Alien book, you can pick up Bloodlines, then this, or you can just pick up Revival on its own and read it and enjoy it. So yeah, once again, hope you all enjoyed this comic. Chris, thank you once again for sending me this book. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.